Towards the end of the broadcast, I'm going to get into what's happening in the Democratic Party. National polls show between 55 and 70+%, depending on the poll, are vehemently against the government takeover of health care. And with every passing week, those numbers are shifting more and more towards a supermajority of Americans. So every week, the numbers of people in the polls against government-running health care increases. That's why the Democrats are so desperate to ram this through now, because even the Democratic Party chairman has come out and said that he is against the bill. Dennis Kucinich, one of the most liberal people in Congress, has said they're against it. When you can't get Howard Dean or Dennis Kucinich for your socialist bill, you got a problem, because it's not even a socialist bill. I don't like socialism because it makes people dependent. It creates corruption. Any big pool of money, special interests are going to get their snouts in. You don't have to wait for special interests to mine in and burrow into this takeover of 1/7 conservatively. Some estimates are 1/6. It was written by the insurance company and banks. They make you get insurance. They make the rates go up. They increase your taxes. And then it actually gives them immunity from prosecution, massive immunity in many forms of suits for not giving good care. It's horrible. It's horrible. But they're set to go to conference this week and try to ram it through. So that is coming up. Some stations don't carry the first 5 minutes of each hour. They carry news, but we do the first 5 minutes. Then we have a 1-minute break, come back at 6 after. If you missed it, Mr. Haskell, one of the survivors of Flight 253, finished up what he had to say, and he'll be joining us again later in the week as the FBI continues to change their story. More than a Victoria's Secret model changes what they're wearing when they do a runway event. I mean, they're changing it every 5 minutes. But just finishing up on the new wars being launched by Obama. He's continuing rendition, secret arrest, torture, expanding the Patriot Act, expanding all the major wars, saying they're getting ready to go into Yemen and Somalia and Sudan. The biggest defense budget ever, bigger than all 50 states' budgets combined. The government's bankrupt. The banks are looting everything. Obama has spent, in less than a year in office, a little over 11 months in office, January 21st, it'll be 1 year in office. He has spent more than all presidents before him combined in less than a year. And he did that 8 months in. That number is an 8-month number. So that's from 3 months ago. More than all presidents before him, back to George Washington. So that is something we're going to be covering and going over. They want to bankrupt you. Big offshore banks want an insolvent country, just like they finance countries to do deals with the IMF and World Bank, where they create all this fiat currency out of nothing, backed up by U.S. taxpayers. They go in the third world countries, whether it be Brazil or Nigeria or Indonesia. They run up these giant bills, and you'll have $1 billion loan, and Nigeria ends up paying 30, 40, 50, even $60 billion back on it. The same thing is now being done to our republic. Now, I'm going to open the phones up here in just a moment. We're going to go to Carol, Michael, Jonathan, David, Paul, Kim, Nigel, Chris, Seal, Billy Bob, and others. But please have your question or comment. Quickly fire it out. We're moving to the next person. I did want to finish up with this CNN report that our guest was mentioning. U.S. terrorism czar, Christmas Day plot not like 9/11. This is a transcript of his interview on CNN and their State of the Union program. It's not like 9/11, Brennan said, the terror czar, adding that the system didn't work as it should have due to lapses in human error. This wasn't an effort to try to conceal information. Not like 9/11. What does that mean? I mean, look at this. Folks, the more security, I mean, even if you believe this is all incompetence, the more liberty we give up, the more terrorism we get. But if government knows it can stage a few events or let a few terrorists get through and then use it to give their buddies hundreds of billions of dollars a year in airport scanner and security money, the government gives this to their cronies. It's a revolving door. To people in the Pentagon and Justice Department, they all then revolve in and out of government into these security firms and big defense firms that are really taking over that market. And they have an incentive for terror, an incentive for fear. But you look at the pre-bombing run-up of propaganda against Yemen. You look at the hype about terrorism. You look at Obama now saying, get ready for biological attack today. I mean, all of this is going on. In fact, here's one of those reports. Obama orders U.S. government to begin preparing for biological attack. This is how the government takes your liberties and says, oh, it's being done to keep you safe. Let's go to Calvin in Ohio. Calvin, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make a comment that here at my local news, right after the underwear bombing, the very next day, they reported the Taliban turned around and bombed a CIA building.
Say that again?
I didn't, right at my local news here in Ohio, Channel 10 had reported one day about the underwear bomber, and then the very next day, they started reporting about how the Taliban attacked the CIA embassy building over in Afghanistan.
Well, it wasn't really an embassy building. It was a former Soviet airfield and prison, and it killed 8 CIA employees. But I appreciate your call. And that was probably a real terror attack because the CIA admittedly has been inside Pakistan bombing weddings and other public events, and those people are all about vendettas and those particular tribes. And that's what they're saying. They're saying this is a vendetta for killing our families. And that's the problem. Being in all these countries, it creates real terrorism. And the system knows that. Let's take another call. Thank you, Calvin. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk to Carol in California. Carol, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say gratitude to you and to Mr. Haskell for speaking the truth, having the courage to be the example for all of us to stand up and do the same. Sir, I could go on for eons. I would like to say that the people have the right in the Republic to act in commerce, to take back our sovereignty, and it is important that we do the research so that we can stand in peace and combat them with peaceful means, that arms are not the only way to go. And I could go on forever, but thank you so much for speaking up and speaking for the truth.
Carol, thank you. Good to talk to you in 2010. I'll tell you one way to take things back in commerce. 10 years ago, you couldn't find organic food in most stores. Now half the food, when I go into a store, sometimes even more, is organic. That's 10 years ago, you couldn't find milk that didn't have bovine growth hormone in it, making our kids go into puberty when they're 7, 8 years old. Now, there's a tiny little area in the cold case, the refrigerated dairy case of the GMO milk, and there's 4, 5, 6 big cases full of different varieties of organic milk, or at least non-hormone milk, natural milk. And it's the same thing with so many issues. You vote with your dollars. Support the alternative media. Buy the books and videos that I've written, that I've produced, that we sell at Infowars.com. That allows us to expand our operation. I want to thank all of you out there. We couldn't have done it without you. Let's go to Michael in California. Michael, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how are you, Alex? Just want to say thank you, first of all.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too, sir. You know, a lot of more young people are becoming especially more aware of this particular incident with the underwear bomber, as this terrorist looked like a lot of them here in America. It looked like a lot of us. What are your thoughts on, Jay-Z and hip-hop having a lot of symbolism and the New World Order, coming through on BET and a lot of our networks? And
well, that's a separate issue. So that's 2 questions, or specifically, you want me to talk about New World Order symbology in movies and film and TV?
Yeah,
and rap?
If not in this episode, if not in this particular show, maybe in the future, have you thought about talking about it?
No, let me come back and answer both your questions. I appreciate your call, Michael. Those are both very important. Terrorists that look like us. What's he mean by that? And then also Illuminati symbolism all over hip-hop. And I've seen it myself. We'll be right back. Stay with us.